Hi everyone, in partnership with Business Southwest Connect, I'm really pleased to bring this recording to you of the Storytelling for Connection presentation, which was delivered last night at the Business Southwest Networking Sundowner held on the 10th of October 2019. I know some of you would like to take some notes and re-listen to and pause while I speak. So this video hopefully will allow you to go over again the points that I gave you and hopefully allow you to craft your unique story to help build connections with your ideal customers, clients, your network of connections, or anyone you'd really like to get in front of. It's important to know that the tips that I give to you today are applicable to pretty much anything to do with your marketing collateral. You could use it for print, you could use it for online, but for the purposes of this presentation, I'm talking about it through a LinkedIn prism. So, my name is Stacey Murray. My business is called The Resume Creative, but in coming months you will see a bit of a change. My business will then be called Human Spark. And essentially what I do for a living is write words that win jobs and make money for people. I'm a certified advanced resume writer, I'm a copywriter, and also an authorized DISC behavioral consultant as well. So I'm going to jump straight into it. So like anything in business, we need to think about and talk strategy first. You need to know why you want to use LinkedIn and how it integrates with your overall business strategy. There's little point to being on social media without a strategy, so you need to determine if you're on LinkedIn to find customers or clients, or are you looking to build your credibility as a subject matter expert? Perhaps you're looking for guest speaking or PR opportunities. What about board or voluntary appointments? Who's on LinkedIn who you'd ideally like to connect with, and how do they serve you? Who do you want to connect with? It's important to know who your end target is, because even if you don't know who they are, you can reverse engineer this by determining who they know or who would potentially know them, so you can connect with those people first. Like stepping stone to the person you'd like to connect with. Once you know who you're wanting to connect with, you need to understand what makes them tick. What issues or problems do they have? What interests them? What do they like learning about? Knowing this will help you to curate content and your story, which will attract your ideal connection and build your credibility. And lastly, you need to anticipate where your ideal connection hangs out. And by this, I mean, what groups online are they likely to be part of? These could be segmented by professional interests, such as leadership groups, HR groups, sales professional groups, or retail associations. They could be segmented by industry or sector, or they could be in groups by their location or by causes too. Do some recon and search for groups or review the groups your connections are part of and join them. And more importantly, interact and add value to those conversations in those groups. So with this in mind, let's think about building that story. I told a story about the two engineers that I was approached by and how they had the same degree. They'd been to the same university, they worked the same internships and were working for rival companies in the same sector, yet they both came to me at two very different points in their career. One was struggling. His career had flatlined. He was in a job he hated. He couldn't get in front of an employer. He was applying for any job that he could get his eyes on. The other one, on the other hand, was getting interview offers and job offers through LinkedIn almost weekly. And didn't take me too long to work out the secret sauce, and it had nothing to do with their premium accounts or optimized profiles or even the number of people in their network. The one who did better, the engineer that was tearing ahead of the other, spun a really great story. His profile didn't read like a resume. It wasn't full of dot points or talked in third person, nothing like that. In fact, he shared about the moment he realized he wanted to be an engineer. He remembers the moment as a child, the minute. He didn't know what an engineer was at that point, but he knew that's what he wanted to do for the rest of his life. He was gifted a Meccano set for his birthday. And from there, he talked about all the weird and wonderful contraptions he designed through school, many that went on to win awards and into uni, where some of them went to prototype and actually got used in commercial application. So, excuse me, the strong storytelling was the difference between the two. And I'm going to share with you how to craft your own unique story to attract the customers, clients, employees, or connections who you want to be getting in front of. So let's dig deeper into developing your story. So why storytelling? We know that business and brand storytelling doesn't happen in a vacuum. 3 areas have converged to make branding and storytelling critical to standing out on LinkedIn. The first is societal trends in social media, our online presence, and even artificial intelligence, where we can do business with and build relationships with people from any corner of this globe. But more and more and more, we're having to do that through a computer screen first. So too, the blur between our work self and our home self, that line that used to be very distinct between who we are at home and who we are at work, is very blurry now, and that can be chalked up to the gig economy, and also people being more conscious about the employers, the vision and the mission and the overall objective of spending 40 hours a week working for an employer. They want to be contributing to something that they believe in, and something that makes them proud. So they're starting to carry through their personal values into their work life as well. And lastly, this societal component is the Gen Z and Gen Y generations, also known as the reality TV generations. We've grown up knowing nothing else. We, by that extension, are typically more transparent generations. And as I said, you just need a quick peruse on LinkedIn to know that people love letting it all hang out. So that's the first component that's converged. The second is that the research actually backs up the neuroscience of storytelling. I'm going to show you this slide while I talk to you about this. So storytelling actually affects your brain. Increased neuroscience research about how we communicate and keep our brains engaged is starting to redefine what we call professional. The Harvard Business School conducted research into why storytelling is so effective, and what they found was fascinating. They found that facts alone light up just 2 areas of our brain, yet stories that ignite emotion light up 5 or more areas of your brain, and they worked just as effectively for left and right brain people. They found that when storytelling elicited emotion, our brains released oxytocin, known as the love hormone, and this helps to create connections and bonds between humans, and it's incredibly powerful. They studied watchers of movies and found the group who watched James Bond collectively felt more dominant, like they could achieve anything together as a group, and the ones who watched Spartans 300, they felt energized and active, like they wanted to go for a workout. So when you want to motivate and inspire, persuade, or to just be remembered, start with a story. It will capture people's hearts by first attracting their brains. And that third point is Brené Brown. If you aren't familiar with her work, she's a genius. She's a researcher, specializes in psychology and social work, and she did a TED talk about sharing our vulnerabilities and stories of shame in mainstream conversations, which is pretty counter to everything that we're taught in business school and in the professional world. It shows, by sharing our vulnerability, it shows our humanity, our relatability, and an openness that makes us more likable and relatable and human to other people. Of course, we need to make sure that it's the right vulnerable story for professional purposes, but biologically, we're wired as humans to connect. In order to connect, we need to be vulnerable, to be seen. In a world where our perception is our reality, being real and authentic, as overused as those terms are, is a commodity which can make or break our brands. And how's this for a statistic from Stanford University? We remember information woven into stories up to 22 times more than facts alone. The short of the long of that is, storytelling, emotion, actually helps us to retain facts. Stories help us to connect with one another. They make us relatable, and our vulnerability makes us human. And of course, they do take courage. It takes a lot of chops to put up a personal story, but the reward for that is the deepest connections, the most robust conversations, and most importantly, it inspires action. And it stands to reason that if someone buys into your story and feels and connects with you because of your story, it's a better predictor of your chemistry and fit in working together, right? You'll know if you've read a great book that a really compelling story will suck you into the pages. But a pitch, on the other hand, tends to be pushing an idea onto someone. Social media now requires us to have more of a professional approach, where the personal meets the professional. And it should be bold. It shouldn't be boring. It has to ignite emotion, create a feeling of trust, and value drive your action. So the goals of storytelling. Storytelling should be purposeful. It should meet the 4 C's. It should capture your reader's interest. It should connect emotionally to connect professionally. Remember, professional. Should convey your value and compel action. Remember, they must be relevant and relatable. It has to be concise because putting your reader to sleep isn't going to help anybody. You need to be specific and convey your value in a subtle way. You can weave in your humble brag organically into your story. And lastly, compelling action or your call to action has to be appropriate for the audience or platform that you're using. So when you're thinking about the right anecdote or story to tell, you need to keep in mind just 2 things. What makes you different and what makes you relevant. Identify your point of difference. We could call this your origin story. How are you memorable? How did you come to be doing what you're doing? People love to know who you are. They love buying into your vision and feeling your passion because it's contagious. It can also help you to communicate a major career change too. Remember, I mentioned that I had a client who was an accountant, threw it in and decided they were going to become a winemaker the next day. So some of the things to consider here is, how did you get into the line of work that you're in and what drew you to it? What is unique about you and how do you do what you do differently from your peers? What value does your difference offer to your target audience? The difference is about you. Then we need to define your relevance to your target audience that answers, why do I care? The what's in it for me. So you need to get clear on what customers, clients or connections you're targeting and what's their biggest problem. Think about times where you've resolved similar problems for them and how did you use your unique strengths to achieve that and what was the ultimate benefit or impact of your actions. Keep in mind those 4 C's while you do that. So when it comes to writing your own story, you need to decide on a structure. These are just a couple of popular frameworks, the transformation, the hero's journey, or the investigative format. But choose a structure that best illustrates your story and feels natural to you. If you plug into Google story framework or story structures, you'll get hundreds of thousands of results, but there are hundreds of different frameworks that you can use. Just pick one that helps you to let your story unfold and tells it organically. Now you might be thinking, I've got a structure ready. How the hell do I kick this thing off? So I've got 5 strategies for you. You need to storytell in 50 words, which is about as many words as are visible on your LinkedIn summary section before the reader has to click see more. So here are 5 strategies to help you to suck in your reader in those first 50 words. And the first one is starting with a question. And you need the answer to that question. If the answer is yes, they're the people who you want to be speaking with. The ones who say no or not sure might still be intrigued enough to click read more. Secondly, you could start with a surprise, and this is where you juxtapose your personal story with your professional story, and if it's authentic, interesting, and unique, you'll be memorable. You can use this format to explain a major career shift or shift in your current focus too. You can connect what you do with your value, and this is the most popular format on LinkedIn. It appeals to readers because it's not just about you, and you can include how or why what you do for your reader. You have to use a unique story to distinguish from similar intros on LinkedIn. Sometimes they can look very same. Fourthly, you can appeal to the audience's greatest need or pain. It shows that you understand their pain points and you need to provide examples of how you've provided a solution to your readers. And lastly, you could use a metaphor or an analogy to help fire up your reader's imagination or to help them understand perhaps a more obscure line of work or industry that you might work with. If it's intriguing enough, they might want to hit the read more button too. So if you don't speak like a resume and you don't talk in dot points, then write how you speak. Write conversationally. Don't be a robot. Remember, connect personally to connect professionally and dare to be different. And don't forget to connect. I look forward to reading all of your stories very soon. Bye.